Hi, attendees on Zoom and also on Facebook Live. Just want to welcome everybody. We're really excited to have some great goalie minds today, but you know, this stuff is very applicable for any player or coach that is, you know, for a coach working with any players. Doesn't have to be a goaltender. We're lucky enough to have Steve Thompson. He's our ADM goaltending manager, and Justin Goldman, who is our Rocky Mountain goalie coach in chief. So I'm going to pass it over to all you. If you have any questions, please put it in the question and answer box if you're on Zoom, or on the comment box on the American Development Model Facebook page. From there, also, if you can just throw down where you're watching from or what age group that you coach. Thanks again, Justin, for doing this. Much appreciated.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today too. This is going to be the start of a long series of goalie-centric webinars that we're going to host. And we're really excited to have Justin with us today and just to build a community. I know we're all stuck at home and it's sometimes tough to figure out what we're going to do with our time, and we all want to grow goaltending. And so we're hoping that these USA Hockey webinars will be that outlet for you. And Justin, you're one of the largest goalie influencers and educators in the world. And I'd like to kind of share your story to start, just for those that do have a passion for goaltending, do have a passion for hockey, and want to learn how someone like Justin kind of climbed the ladder. And Justin, correct me if any of these things are incorrect, but what I have is that journalism was really what brought you into the hockey world on a large scale. You started with the Colorado Eagles, which then transitioned into game day analysis in '06 with the Avalanche. From there, started the Goalie Guild, which has been a huge resource for goalies back in 2009 to today. From then, joined NHL.com in 2011, and in 2013 was brought onto USA Hockey as a national team development program scout, as well as a Warren Strelo mentor. And in 2018, you started the Lift the Mask program to help bring awareness to mental health and goaltending specifically, as well as your global goalie retreat, bringing in the world's best goalie coaches all in for one weekend in Breckenridge to be able to talk goaltending and grow information. And now currently serve as our Rocky Mountain District goalie coach in chief, as well as working at MindSpark Learning, which is a really cool place that we both got to meet at to just learn about how learning works and how we can use technology and new world education to teach the world. So thank you for being here. And how was I on spot on there?
You got the dates and the years dead on, man. That's pretty good stuff. I probably couldn't even do that myself if I had to on the spot. So good job, man.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I'll let you take it from here. Again, thank you for being here. And anyone on the chat, if you have any questions, please let me or Dave know through Facebook Live, and then we'll get those questions to Justin.
Yeah, awesome. Well, first of all, a huge thanks to USA Hockey for having me be a part of this and to give me the opportunity to share this presentation with everyone. And really, you know, as you can see, the title of this presentation is called The Power of One, Embracing a Creative Growth Mindset. And I've given this presentation in a number of different ways over the past few years. So I'm really excited to kind of dive into it. And I feel it's a very relevant subject right now. I think whether you're a team coach or a goalie specific coach or a player, creativity is one of those terms that gets tossed around a lot. So it's a very important skill right now just because of the situation that we're all in. So with that being said, again, Steve already did an unbelievable job of kind of introducing me. Currently, my full-time job is as a director of athletic partnerships at MindSpark Learning, which is based in Lakewood, Colorado. Founder and owner of the Goalie Guild, and like Steve said, goalie coach in chief for the Rocky Mountain District. And yes, an emergency backup goaltender for the Colorado Avalanche. So usually when I give this presentation in full at goalie camps, it's actually broken into two acts. And the first act is really going into the science of that learner-centered model, which is a model that I've adapted or adopted about 4 or 5 years ago and have really been studying on a continual basis. And a lot of the work that I do mentoring goalies and a lot of the things I do off the ice is focused on that learner-centered model. But today we're just going to focus on Act 2, which is really the goalie-specific portion of that learner-centered model. So really over the course of my learning journey through the books that I've written, the time I've spent at the amazing Warren Strelo camp, connecting with goalie coaches like Steve and Dave and everyone else, there's 2 or 3 really key facts that come out of goalie development as a whole. And again, this is going to be consistent with player development as well. And the first real key fact that I've learned over this journey is that peak performance, kind of what we know as the flow state, stems from having a deeper understanding of yourself. So as coaches, as mentors, as players, we're always trying to become more self-aware, whether it has to do with your routine, the way you prepare, the way you actually perform in a game. Like, that is the ultimate goal, is to just, the more that you know yourself, the better chance you're going to have to perform on a consistent basis to the best of your ability. The other key fact that I kind of learned over the years, and this one may seem very obvious, but when you start to dig and peel the layers back, it just becomes a really true sentiment and something that we see all over the globe. And that is that there are as many styles as there are goalies. So goalies today might look a little similar. We all kind of have that butterfly dominant style. But when you start looking at the way that goalies think the game, the way that they strategize, the way that they communicate with their defensemen, they're all extremely unique. And that's really important for coaches to understand, and for goalies to understand as well, that we are unique creatures. We want to be unique, because what makes us unique is what allows us to kind of separate ourselves from other goaltenders and stand out and have a opportunity to have a bigger impact on not just our own play, but the team's play in front of us. So really, at the end of the day, every goalie, every athlete, and even every coach is kind of asking these three key questions. Like, who am I as a goaltender? Who am I as a coach? What are my philosophies? What am I really trying to instill, not only in my own habits, but in the habits of the players that I'm coaching? How do I do these things? What technologies are out there that I can use and lean on to help give me an edge on the competition? And then finally, maybe the most important question, especially one that I hear from a lot of younger goalies, is why do I do these things? And we want those questions to be asked all the time, because that is proof that we're trying to become more self-aware. And again, like I said earlier, that self-awareness is what really drives that peak performance and that ability to get into that flow state. So whether you're a coach, a goaltender, maybe even a goalie parent, you're probably asking these three questions all the time, and that's a great sign. So one of the ways that I've really tried to help goaltenders answer those three questions is by creating this resource that you can actually download for free now, called the Periodic Table of Goaltending Elements. And this was featured in USA Hockey Magazine, I think in the Goalie issue in 2018. And it's just a great tool for young and old goalies alike to really break down all of those different pieces that make us unique as athletes. Everyone's going to have a different hierarchy of skill sets. One goalie might really thrive on their skating ability, while another goalie might really thrive on their ability to process how they cover net in different situations. Or maybe goalie's really, really durable and consistent and very emotionally even keeled, while another goalie might be thriving on their vision skills. They have unbelievable vision and an unbelievable ability to see plays unfold. So the key concept here is that a learning project like this, and a simple, infographic like a periodic table of goaltending elements, is a great tool for self-awareness and to help goalies gain a deeper understanding of themselves. So that starts to beg the question of, when you look at and you understand that every single goalie is unique and every single goalie has a unique style, we start to ask those questions. Well, what skills do you value most? And when I give this presentation, in real time to, goalies at camps and stuff, it's always great to hear the answers, because everyone's got something different that they truly value the most. Again, one goalie, it might be tactical. Another goalie, it might be their physical skill set. All the mental skills that go into, being a high-level goaltender, technical as well. So you start to ask those questions, and you start to realize those differences are truly important in terms of, finding ourselves and finding what works best for us. So I like to challenge goalies too, and I'd like to challenge everyone here who's tuning in to think about preparation as a skill. And we all saw just how much, time and energy Braden Holtby puts into his preparation at the highest level. And of course, that's not something we expect from our younger goalies, but it is important for those younger goalies and maybe the parents and the volunteer goalie coaches out there to understand that preparation is most definitely a skill. You want to start to develop those good habits at a young age, and you want to start to instill those things, because that will separate you from other goalies that maybe aren't taking it very seriously or haven't really thought about it as an actual skill that you can develop. So preparation, I think, is one of those key skills that you talk about. Nutrition, you talk about getting enough rest the night before, you talk about an important skill like visualization. And those things really do have an impact on your ability to, again, perform at the highest level possible. The other one I'd like to kind of challenge you guys to think about is patience as a skill. I think Alex Ovechkin is absolutely the best example of a player who has embraced the grind year after year after year and shown tremendous patience, not only with his own game, but with his teammates, with the Washington Capitals organization, with the coaching staff. And for him to finally push through and earn that Stanley Cup and really get rewarded for all of his efforts and just his sheer commitment to the game, I think is a skill that sometimes we don't necessarily think about. But again, if you can develop it and start to think about it, it can give you an edge on the competition. But really, at the end of the day, and what the whole purpose of this presentation is about, is really thinking about creativity as a skill. And again, maybe we've heard about, like having creative shot selection or creative save selections. We hear this term a lot, but more often than not, when I ask goalies if they actually have a true understanding or true definition of creativity, maybe one or two goalies will raise their hand and they're a little hesitant, because we understand this term and maybe what it means in maybe like an artistic setting, but what does creativity truly mean for a goaltender, for a hockey player? So really, when it comes to the learning process and that learner-centered model that is part of this presentation, but we're kind of holding off for the future, it really comes down to this. If you can define something like creativity, you can teach it. And if you can teach it, that means it's something that can be learned. And if you can learn something like creativity, all of a sudden it becomes a skill, and it's something, again, that you can lean on to help give you an edge on the competition and help you drive your performance forward so that you can be the best version of yourself. And that's really the goal with this presentation, when I do give it, is to be able to actually sit down with goalies, sit down with coaches, and give you the true definition of creativity, break that definition down, and then be able to give you real life examples, real world examples of what goalies are doing to be creative and how we can adopt that mindset and adapt that mindset, again, to drive our performance forward. So here is the actual true definition of creativity from the Center of Innovation and Education. And I'm going to go ahead and break this down into 3 parts. So, again, this is, if you're a coach and you're watching, this is a great opportunity. You can have your goalies write the definition down to help reinforce that learning, and you can have them give examples as well. So, creativity, an individual's ability to personally interpret experiences, imagine and play with new possibilities, and create approaches that are novel, useful, and valued by the world around them. Okay? And so again, you can go through this in 3 parts. How do goalies personally interpret their experiences? Well, this is happening all the time. When a goalie is watching a play develop, they're interpreting that experience, and they're trying to come up with ways to not only understand what may come next, but to anticipate where the shot might eventually occur, where that threat might be taking place. So when we use our visualization skills before the game, that's another example of creativity, because we're personally interpreting future experiences and we're imagining ourselves making those saves. We're visualizing ourselves doing the right things, making the right movements, making the right decisions, saying the right things. That's an unbelievable example of creativity in a nutshell. The second part, imagining and playing with new possibilities. Well, the low-hanging fruit here for goaltenders is all of the different things that we're doing all the time with our gear. Our gear is really truly a part of us as performers and as athletes and as puck stoppers. So we're seeing goalies do all kinds of different things, being really creative with the way that they use their Velcro strapping on the back of the pad, the toe straps at the toe bridge of goalie pads, the Lundquist loop on the back heel of the skate, things that we're doing with our chest protector to maybe lift them just slightly or make ourselves look bigger in the net. Every day, goalies at the highest level are constantly imagining and playing and tinkering with new possibilities to help their gear perform better so that they can perform better as well. The final piece is creating approaches that are novel, useful, and valued by the world around them. And for a goalie, the world around you is not just your teammates, but your coaching staff as well. And we're always trying to, preach that strong relationship, that strong friendship between a goalie coach and a goalie, and it being a real true two-way street where the goalie is giving just as much feedback as the goalie coach is giving, so that the drills that we're customizing and personalizing for that unique goaltender are as effective as possible to create the most positive outcome that we can possibly make in that 30-minute practice or that hour-long practice. So creating approaches, whether that's specific drills that you feel like you need to work on to strengthen your weaknesses or to refine your strengths, we're working on that every day. Goalie coaches in general are trying to find approaches that are novel, useful, and valued by the rest of the goalie nation. So those are the three key components to creativity. And now that I've actually, shown you the true definition of creativity, you can start to really flex these creative skills and really lean on that creativity to continue to find ways to be the best version of yourself. So again, I went through a couple of examples of how goalies are creative just naturally, whether that's, unconsciously, subconsciously, or on a conscious level. But right now, in the situation that we're all facing, where we don't have the luxuries of ice time, we don't have the luxuries of private ice or private coaching, now we really have to lean on that creativity as a skill and find ways to continue to get better every single day. So three of the other key components to creativity that I kind of pulled out that I feel is really valuable and something that coaches can lean on, goalies can lean on, are these three listed right here. The first one being adaptable. I mean, we're all facing that right now. We've got to find an ability to adjust and thrive in a constantly changing environment. That's happening all season long when we're playing different opponents, playing in different rinks, dealing with travel. But now our environment has totally changed and we're stuck at home for the most part. So we've got to find a way to adapt the home workouts that we're doing, the eye hand drills that we're doing, and figure out how to do it at home instead of just giving up or abandoning our training routines. Same thing with resourcefulness. And I have to lean on this one personally every single day, because as an emergency backup goaltender and a full-time, guy who has a full-time job, I'm lucky if I get on the ice twice or three times a week, and then I just have my beer league game. So I have to be extremely resourceful, and I have to find ways to use my tools, my passion for learning, and my time, my limited time, in unique, valuable, and effective ways. And if I can do that on a daily basis, I can go to sleep at night feeling confident, knowing that I've done as much as I possibly can to continue staying sharp mentally, physically, and emotionally. And then the third one, and I think one that, again, you may not think about as being a creative skill, but it very much is that coachability. That ability to listen, learn, and remain open-minded to criticism or feedback from others. It's really easy to tune out a goalie coach or a head coach when you hear something that you may not want to hear or you're getting some criticism. But what really makes an athlete or a goaltender truly shine is that ability to just continue to remain open-minded, to accept the criticism, and to be able to take that feedback and utilize it in a positive way instead of just tuning it out. So tuning it out is the simple way to kind of fall into bad habits. But the goalies that are truly creative are the ones that, even though they may be hearing something they don't want to hear and necessarily may not agree with, they're still going to take that to heart. They're still going to put it in the back of their mind and use it later and maybe reflect on it at a later time. So again, circling back or spiraling back to the key component of this creative mindset is really getting everyone to understand what is that power of one. You know, we're in this situation now where we're really kind of on an island. We have to really lean on our own natural creativity, our own natural resourcefulness to find ways to get better. And that's exactly what that power of one is. The power of one is finding creative ways to get 1% better every day. Okay. Now, the next part is, what are those one ways that we can get better? What are those multitude of ways we can get 1% better? Well, I've listed a couple here. Okay. Pretty standard stuff. You've got your home workouts. There's a whole multitude of great resources out there. USA Hockey is providing some. Other great hockey coaches are out there providing lots of great home workouts. There's all kinds of brain training apps that you can lean on. I'm a big believer in the value of gaming and esports as a way to keep your brain sharp during this time. This is a great opportunity right now to lean on some mindfulness practices. So if you've, maybe thought about picking up meditation and you've always just kind of postponed it or said, maybe I'll get to it in the summer, like now is a perfect opportunity to get 1% better by trying meditation for 5 minutes and trying to push that length a little bit more every single day. Journaling is another great one. As a writer, this is one that I've really leaned on for pretty much my whole life. Just reflecting on the experience that you're going through and being able to look back and also, just imagine a brighter future when things do get back to normal and we are back on the ice. Are you going to be prepared? What are you going to do different to make sure you're getting 1% better every day? And then of course you've got things like stretching, but now is this great opportunity for everyone in Goalie Nation, everyone in USA Hockey to really lean on that creativity and just don't be afraid to try new things, take those risks, because these are the ways that you can create edges for yourself on the competition and still improve, even though we've got very limited resources right now. Okay. So again, showing a couple of real world examples. I'm going to queue up this. There's a little bit of a backstory here, but this is a great example of, again, creativity in the moment. So this is a goalie by the name of Packy Munson. And during his time, I think he just finished his second year in the ECHL. And when he was at the University of Denver, he was a redshirt. So he wasn't able to travel with the team on weekends, and he wasn't necessarily able to practice with the team either. So what he did is he knew that I lived in Denver. He knew I was a big fan of this teaching concept called box control. He actually invited me out to the University of Denver. They had all this extra ice on the weekend. And even though he wasn't getting his normal practice time in because he was a redshirt, he was still very resourceful and very creative. And he invited me to come out and do some box control. And again, even though it's not your traditional, drills where you're facing shots and stuff like that, he still found a way to get 1% better despite the lack of resources by just talking about his net coverage. So I'm going to play this video. It's about a minute long. Steve, if you can't hear audio, just let me know. The only space available is about 1 inch above your glove.
But that's this and that's.
Or just, you don't gain that space. You don't cover that net by going up. You cover it by going out. Yeah. Yes, there you go. So go back to where you would normally hold it.
Yeah. So
okay.
It should be like right above the glove.
So instead of thinking about raising it, because when you lift your glove straight up, what happens? You create space underneath the cuff of the glove and the top of the pad. But if you come forward, you cover both. And that's what happens. Goalies create holes because they think they have to go straight up. But you don't. You just have to go out and take away the aerial angle.
Yeah, so I just go over the puck like here?
Yeah, you've got everything. There's absolutely no space available. But do you see how short side is taller?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I don't know if you heard at the very end as he's kind of lifting out of his stance, he says, oh man, that's crazy. And for him, I just gave Packy so much credit for making the most out of a difficult situation, leaning on that creativity. And again, finding a way to still learn about his net coverage. And like you heard me talk about, taking a little bit of that space away by coming forward instead of going straight up. And kudos to Packy for, again, leaning on that creativity and still finding a way to get 1% better despite the resources that he had. Here's another one that is from an NHL goalie camp in Madison. And you guys may have seen, you goalies out there and goalie coaches may have seen some drills like this over the past few years. They definitely look a little weird. They're a little strange. They're not very common. But again, being able to take a risk and try something that you've never tried before is a form of creativity. And that's what we love to see in young goalies. And so I'm going to roll through this video, this drill, and just, again, as you're watching at home, let me know what you think about it. So again, that might look like a strange drill, but what's so great about it, what the benefit is that it really challenges goalies to get comfortable in uncomfortable situations on their edges. Okay. And so in order to really reinforce that ability to skate adaptively and recover from bad situations, or when you may have over rotated on your post and you need to get back into position really fast, goalies are really leaning on that adaptive skating and the ability to use their edges in pretty creative and unique ways. And that drill that I just showed is a great way that you can start to reinforce those habits and reinforce those adaptable skills. And the NHL goalies had never done something like this before. But again, you see the creativity in the form of the openness and the open-mindedness and the coachability that they had to still be willing to try it. And Brian Elliott, Ben Bishop, Jimmy Howard, another great U.S. goaltender that you can kind of see in the background there. By the end of this camp, they were all about it because they were challenged to try something new. It really taught them how to get more comfortable on their edges in unpredictable ways, and it became a skill for them, and they're better because of it. Okay, here's another one that's very similar, something we had never tried before, but the coaching staff and the goalies, always trying to be creative, always trying to learn new things.
Nice.
Okay, so one more. I think we're getting close on time. Steve, how am I doing?
You're doing great. Keep on going.
Okay, cool.
Time.
Okay, sweet. So here's another example of creativity. So the backstory here is this is Kristers Godlevskis when he was with the Syracuse Crunch. Andrei Vasilevsky, the goalie who's now with the Lightning, you all know, was supposed to start, came down with a stomach bug, very last minute. All of a sudden, Kristers Godlevskis was thrown into the starting role, didn't have much time to prepare. Instead of just throwing his arms up and saying, oh, well, I just hope I can go out there and stop pucks. No, he was resourceful. And even though they weren't in their home building, they were on the road. They went into the bowels of the arena. They found this dinky old net and this jumping pad for off-ice workouts. And he still found a way to get his eyes and hands warmed up. I missed one. We'll stop it there. And that's just, again, a great example of being resourceful, being adaptable, and finding ways to still be prepared for a game, even though you don't have your normal routine around you. And what's great about that last drill that I showed too is the collaboration with the goalie coach as well. So you have guys that you can lean on in situations like this. You're not alone. You've got people that you can lean on, whether it's teammates, coaching staff, whatever, to help drive that creativity home and to help you get prepared when something like that happens, because more often than not, you are going to experience that at some point in your career if you haven't already a million times. One last way that goalies and coaches can be creative together is with what we call a zone map. And this is just one example. Again, it's kind of like the periodic table of goaltending elements. That is an example, and you work from there and you create your own. This is an example of a zone map. This happens to be mine. I try and follow it as true as possible. This just shows, and it's great, again, for feedback with the goalie coach and to have that conversation of what I'm trying to accomplish with my positional strategies when I'm playing the game. So you can see I've kind of created a little zone here where I tend to rely more on a blocking compact butterfly. You can see where I've kind of marked the positions or the spots on the ice where I'm using the RVH. When the puck's on the boards in the corner, I like to stand up. You can see all these different zones that I've created so that now I've got a great blueprint that I can fall back on if I am chasing the game, or if I do feel like I'm struggling with my confidence. This is something that I can always go back to. And if you're at home and you want a great exercise and you really want to be able to reflect on where you're at with your positional strategy, I highly recommend you do this, but do it in pencil because, again, just like everything else, our environment is constantly changing. Our creative minds are constantly changing and adapting. And that just means that your lines and your zones and the way you position yourself is also going to constantly change. So if you do it in pencil and you go back and look at this maybe once every month or a couple of times a season, it can lead to a lot of great discussion with your goalie coach. And I know goalie coaches really appreciate this kind of work from their goalies because it really helps eliminate a lot of guesswork and it gets you on the same page, okay? And that makes everything that you do a little bit cleaner, a little bit more efficient. It'll save time when you go into your goalie-specific training. It'll just make everything better. So highly recommend it, and it's a great way to flex your creative skills, okay? Okay, and now if you're stuck at home, like we all are, okay, and you're looking for creative ways to train goalies, for the coaches out there, this is an awesome exercise. And there's a whole bunch of different videos that you can lean on to do something like this. But what we're going to do is we're going to play a little game. Okay. And I challenge you guys and I hope you guys will participate in the chat room. I can't see the chat room, but Dave and Steve are on it. What you're going to do is you're going to watch Austin Matthews take some shots. And I want you guys to guess or, guess if the shot is going short side or far side. Okay. I've got to stop sharing my screen real quick and restart it. So hang on just a second. Okay, so I'm going to share the video. Okay, you guys still with me?
Yeah, we got you. We're all good.
Okay. Let me see if I can get this pulled up. Okay, got it. All right, Steve, can you see?
Yep, we're perfect, man.
Okay. I should be able to full size this and play it, and you guys can follow along at home.
Here we go. Does he go short side or far side? Short side or far side? The deception of Matthews. Play along at home. October 11th, Detroit. He is going short.
Okay, so I'll pause it here for about 4 or 5 seconds. And again, you can see the puck on the stick blade. All right, and we're going to challenge those visual intelligence skills. You guys guess if it's going short side or far side. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Side. His eyes look like they're going short side. Yep. That's for Kelly. Nice job. You know what? I thought he kind of opened up his body. Okay, April 2nd, Buffalo. This looks like he's going far side.
Okay, I'll pause it for a few seconds. Steve, can you hear the audio on the video?
Yeah, everything's perfect.
Okay,
We've got
cool.
a far side from John. We got a far side from Jeff. We'll see how we do.
Okay, here we go.
Far sides.
His body isn't quite as open. Oh, wait. Okay. All right, 1-1.
Winner.
This year, season opener. All right. I think he's going to drag this.
Okay, and again, if you're at home or you're a coach and you're looking for ways to challenge your goalies and continue that learning process, again, I love videos like this. because this is something you can do at home, and it's still challenging your visual intelligence. It's challenging your ability to read stick blades, pucks coming off of stick blades, what the hands are doing, hips, everything, all those visual cues.
So I'm going to say far side again. Good job, Kel. One more for the victory. There's 2 left. All right. October 14th, 2017. This one, I think I...
Okay.
Getting lots of short sides.
Lots of short sides on this one. All right, I can see why.
Because I do remember this one. I think he went far side, didn't he? If my memory serves me correctly, yep. Yes. Okay, that's the only one that I had a bit of an idea. October 6, 2016, the second game. Okay.
I think this is the last one.
We're getting lots of mixed signals here. We got lots of shorts, lots of fars. Let's see if in the chat, put if you got 100% on this after this last one.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if anyone gets 100%.
He seems to be opened up again. I'm going to go short side. Nice job. Okay, so you know why I found that really hard actually? Is because I'm seeing it from a different angle than a goalie would. A goalie would see dead on, right, and so your eyes would see it differently than this. So I did have just a couple of little clues though.
So I was playing along quietly, yes, but I was pretty much on, and it's the left skate that opens up on the short side. Now you don't buy that, do you?
I don't, only because a goalie doesn't have time to look at the feet. I know, Ron, you've told me Jacques Plante did that, which blew me away because I've never heard of a goalie looking at the guy's skates. But if you do have a quick glance, maybe it would tell you something.
Okay, so there you go. So again, just a way that you can be creative with the learning process, and no excuses. There's always so many opportunities to get 1% better. So I'm going to go back to my presentation now. Should be able to get that pretty easy. Let's see. I only have a few more slides, and then I think we open it up for questions. Okay, here we go. We all good, Steve?
Yeah, we're looking to see if we have any 100%. We no winners from the Zoom part. We're now looking through the Facebook chat.
Gotcha. Awesome. Awesome. So again, to spiral back, what I've been able to do in this presentation is not only give you guys examples of creativity, but to also define it for you. And now I hope when this presentation is over, whether you're a coach, goalie, or a parent, you understand what creativity truly is, and you understand all the different ways that you can gain an edge on a competition by finding ways to get 1% better every day. And that is what the power of one is. The power of one is taking it upon yourself, and instead of abandoning the things that make you unique, you start to lean on them, okay? And you take those risks and you take these opportunities, especially right now with our limited resources, to be creative and flex that skill, because we love to see it as goalie coaches. We love to see novel approaches that are going to make a difference and have a positive impact on the community. And we love to see those maybe not necessarily unorthodox saves, but we love to see those unpredictable saves that is starting to come back now in the NHL. We're seeing the 2-pad stacks. We're seeing the 1-knee down saves from guys like Robin Lehner and Fleury and guys like that. So now you have no excuse, okay? So I'm going to open it up for Q&A. And then I also wanted to just share that I've got some resources available. So Steve, you want me to stick with the questions for now?
Yeah, I have a few questions for you, but first we want to give a shout out to Jory Elliott, who got 100%
Jory
on the far side, short side game. But,
good stuff, Jory. Good stuff.
All right. Question number 1. What are your thoughts on finding the balance between remaining coachable as a player and remaining true to what has worked for you in the past? As goalies get older, I think it's worth exploring that balance.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think ultimately at the end of the day, if you're being open-minded and you're willing to listen and make that eye contact and show that respect to the coach, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to heed all the advice that you hear and integrate it into your game 100%. but always be willing to at least try. Okay, I think that's the key that we want to get across is coachability is not necessarily always constantly changing everything and having to agree with everything. It's just that respect level. And when you show that respect to a coach, that's the coachability. You gain the respect of your teammates. You're showing positive body language. And hey, maybe there's something to what that coach said. So as long as you're willing to listen and you're willing to try it, I think that's all a coach can ask for. And if you show that mutual respect, it will really pay off dividends a lot in your future.
Next question is from Colin Brennan. How would you recommend teaching mindfulness to young goaltenders?
I think for young goaltenders, you really want to start with the basics, which is just simple visualization. And when you can start to visualize, positive thoughts and good things happening to you on the ice, that really will set the stage for more robust mindful practices like meditation. There's also some things you can try that also have a physical component. So there's a lot of good breathing habits that you can develop and a lot of good breathing tactics that you can develop from practices like yoga and Pilates. And I know me personally, I'm a huge believer in Pilates because not only are you gaining that core strength, but there also is that breathing tactic to it. And that's going to help control your mind and control the thoughts that are going in and out during a game, during a performance, during practices or whatever. But really for me, the easiest way to start is just with really simple visualization tactics that you can use at any time. You could be sitting on your couch, just closing your eyes and really focusing on your breathing. And that's going to calm your nerves. That's going to allow you to think more freely. And that's always a great place to start for young goalies is with just simple visualization.
Excellent. Our next question is from John Ives. Can you list a few reasons when one would use an overlap versus a skate inside the post on low angle plays?
Okay, repeat that one more time.
So basically, I think the question is, what would be some thought processes for the goalie when they're deciding to use an overlap or a skate on the post on those bad angle plays?
Yeah, on bad angle plays, I mean, first and foremost, it's just understanding the situation that you're in. That's a tough one to answer just because, for me, I'm looking at what the goalie is most comfortable doing. And I think you also have to understand, like, you got to look at the visual cues. So you have to know what hand the shooter is at, where the far side threats. How do you feel in the overlap position if the puck is wide and it's going around and you've got to find a way to get back into position and cover the far side post? So it's really tough to answer that one just off the cuff like that. But I would say be comfortable doing both and have both in your tool set, have both in your skill set, and always just make sure you know where the lateral threats are, because very rarely, the hard thing about dead angle and bad angle shots is that if you're caught in a compromised position and you're not fully set in your stance, whether it is overlap or it's on the post, pucks are going to come off your body awkwardly, and that's going to cause you to be in bad situations. And you always want to give yourself a chance to make a controlled second save. So I know I didn't give like concrete examples, but it's hard to answer that without being able to read the whole situation and know what type of goalie you are. So.
And I think it's great the way you answered it, because that's really what's going through these goalies' heads when they're playing the position. There's so many different variables that there's not going to be a set in stone. You should use overlap when this happens. You should use post inside when this happens, because realistically, the threats are so dynamic and the game's so dynamic that if we get stuck in that X equals 1, Y equals 2, we're probably going to fail. And so to be flexible is really important.
Right.
From Zach Nowak, from a coach's perspective, what is the best way to manage providing possible solutions for goalies without hindering their creativity to solve problems? For example, if Johnny Quick listened to what many of his coaches gave him as the proper way to play, he probably wouldn't be as creative and as successful as he is today.
Yeah. That's an awesome question. And I think that is why communication is so important between a goalie and his coach, because you need to be able to have that open dialogue and talk about why the goalie is making certain decisions in certain situations. Like, why does Johnny Quick decide to do a reverse 360 and extend the back of his leg to the post when he clearly could have just, used his stick or something else? So I think to answer your question, like, as coaches, we have such great opportunity to empower our goaltenders by showing them that the decisions that they make have value and merit. And the more that we can understand why a goalie does something and why they chose X over Y or Y over Z, you start to understand their thought processes, and that shows that goaltender a lot of respect. And that's going to help the goaltender become a little bit more open with the coach in terms of like actually being able to say openly and honestly, this is why I did it. Yeah, maybe it wasn't the most efficient or the most effective, but when I'm in the moment and things are happening a million miles an hour, I'm just going off a gut instinct. Obviously, my goal is to stop the puck the most efficient and precise way possible, but the game puts you in bad situations a lot. There's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of, guys crossing your line of sight. Not everything is clear cut and dry. So I think for a coach, it's not necessarily about right or wrong. It's just, why did you do it versus why not? Or why did you do, you chose this safe selection as opposed to this. And that's what a lot of the goalie coaches, I think, at the higher levels are really doing. They're just trying to understand and get on the same wavelength and get on the same level as the goalie when goals are being scored or when situations arise that maybe isn't the way you taught it, but you just want to understand why they did it that way. So that's a really good question. I think those are questions that as goalie coaches, we're asking every day. Like, you don't want to change a guy too much. You want him to lean on that creativity, but at the same time, you always kind of want to have that bug in the goalie's ear to make sure they are trying to be as efficient and as clean and as structured as possible. So I think it's more just about the communication and the understanding of why decisions are being made, of why they're doing the things that they're doing.
Excellent. Next is from Joe. What is the role of the private goalie coach? Should the private goalie coach trump the youth head coach? How does a young goalie blend private lessons with team play?
Ooh, that's a heavy question. That's a really good one. I think, again, there's a time and a place for everything. So for your private goalie coach, if he's not attached to the team, you really are focusing on the intricacies of the technical and tactical parts of the game. And you're also, trying to strengthen your weaknesses and trying to reinforce the strengths. And when it comes time for that goalie to go into a team setting, they have to remember that it's really easy to develop bad habits in a practice because practices aren't always structured in a way that's going to allow goalies to work on those little things. So I think it's important for there to be communication. And I think the head coach has to lean on the goalie coach and have that two-way communication so that the head coach knows what the goalie is working on in those private lessons. And same thing going the other way. The private coach should be having that dialogue and having those conversations with the head coach to, have a discussion about what is trying to be accomplished in a private lesson and maybe what the expectations are on both sides. So what are the expectations for a goalie in a team practice? If the private goalie coach has a clear understanding of what the expectations are in a team practice, he or she can then mold the lesson plan or the drills to be conducive to that. So I think ultimately, the coaches need to be on the same page as much as possible and be in direct communication with each other, because you want to nurture the development of the goalie long term, and you want to provide the most robust and most effective environment possible in these different realms. So again, a lot of it to me comes back to communication. And again, I know that's kind of vague, but every situation is unique. Every coach has a different personality. Every coach has different expectations. And I think, again, when you can lean on some communication and you can have that open dialogue, and maybe it is actually writing things down and having those expectations written out as part of goals for the season, that's going to make that transition a lot easier, and it's going to make every coach's job in those different roles a little bit easier.
Excellent. And this is one of the things that I love most about when we get into goalie work is that people get so excited about having answers for goalie questions they probably had for such a long time that it gets very widespread as to some of the questions we get. And so what I would ask the chat is if we can tailor these more towards the presentation, and any of these questions that you do have, we'd love to create another webinar down the road for maybe that exact question about relationships between private coaches and your team coaches. And many of these others that I'm seeing about drills and synthetic ice now being more a part of our future, potentially. How do we use synthetic ice for training? So please ask those questions with the expectation that we're going to host webinars answering some of those down the road. The next question I have that I think pertains to this specific topic is, how is the best way to build a goalie's confidence creatively, kind of in the environment we're in today?
Yeah, I think so. One thing that I really lean on is just using all the great videos that are out there right now. So if you try and emulate a certain goalie style, and you're struggling with your confidence, like, first of all, go back and watch videos of yourself where you're playing really well. You know, go back and look at videos where you were just in the zone and you were really feeling the flow, and those games where you were feeling good and making the right kind of saves, and performing the right way. Like, that's one of the best ways to regain your confidence. But then also leaning on the elite goalies that are out there. So again, if you like to play a little bit like Connor Hellebuck, you know, go watch some Connor Hellebuck videos. Just look at, you know, frame by frame the little things that he does that makes him so good. And if that's who you try and emulate, just by watching what he's doing when he's doing it well, that's going to help you kind of mirror and emulate, and take that onto the ice with you, because you're seeing him make the movements the right way, and you're thinking about it and you're reflecting on it. And that's just going to lead right through into games and practices. There's a whole bunch of other, you know, mental tactics that I have for gaining confidence and regaining that, that swagger that we love to see goalies have. But ultimately, one of the easiest things that you can do at home, since, you know, you may not have the luxury of ice time right now, is just watching video of when you were really stopping pucks well, or watching training videos with your goalie coach when you were really dialed in on certain drills. That's always really great, because it's easy to get back to that when you know you've done it before and you're seeing yourself doing it the right way. And it constantly ebbs and flows, but that's the first thing that I always lean on with my goalies.
Excellent. Well, out of respect to time, we're going to close the questions down. But if you do have any other questions that weren't answered, or any other questions in relation to goaltending, please send me an email, steve.thompson@usahockey.org, and we'd be happy to answer your questions or get you plugged into the right person to answer your question for you. And just kind of as we leave here, kind of a big picture thing, we're all home. We're all trying to figure out how to get better, that 1%, that extra one. Justin has some opportunities during this that I'd like to talk about briefly. And one are a few books that he's written in regard to goaltending that could be excellent resources for your kids or yourself when they're trying to figure out how to get better at playing in net when they're stuck at home. And lastly, is a resource for all of our goalie coaches out there. If you are struggling, Justin's put together a program for you, and I'd like to have Justin talk briefly on that before we let him go.
Yeah, so our nonprofit, the Goalie Guild, is a nonprofit foundation. It's a 501c3 based in Colorado. And what we did is we reallocated the funds that would normally go to summer 2020 training scholarships and coaching scholarships. And we put that into a new emergency fund to help goalie coaches that are dealing with financial hardship during the COVID-19 outbreak. So all you can do is you can follow the link. You can read the information on the legality behind the foundation and this new emergency fund, and then you can fill out a simple contact form. And priority does go to goalie coaches, because that is our community. That's our foundation. That's what our foundation is centered around. And there are there are some funds available for coaches in the United States that are struggling or are dealing with hardships, financial hardships, due to the COVID outbreak. So feel free to lean on that. I know it's a hard time for everyone. We're all dealing with this the best we possibly can. We're all kind of at war with this new reality. But our foundation is here to support the coaching community in the United States as much as possible.
Excellent. Well, Justin, again, thank you for your time today. And Dave, thank you for all the effort you put into putting these webinars on. We're really excited about the opportunity to be able to share more information and make the most of the time that we are here today.
Yeah, just want to thank everybody. Justin, thank you very much, Steve. Steve, what's your email? Why don't you say your email? Did you send it?
Again, that's steve.thompson@usahockey.org for anyone that has any questions or recommendations for future webinars that you'd like to see.
So there's a couple things. If you're on Zoom, you'll be getting a survey. Please fill that out. If you're on Facebook, send us an email, Steve or myself. I'm dave.caruso@usahockey.org. And we're excited for the next couple that we have lined up. Tomorrow we have What is the Game Asking Us to Do? Using small area games to shape the way players see the game with Bill Beanie. Bill Beanie was an 8-time NCAA winning national championship. That's at 2 o'clock on Friday Eastern time. Next Tuesday, we have a games-based approach to practice design. So this is going to really come from Bill Beanie, and Coach Zach Noack's going to run you through some stuff. He's done a lot of good things on Twitter and Instagram, kind of having some great videos that you can look at. And then on Wednesday at 3:30 Eastern time, shooting to score, shooting mechanics and scoring concepts with Coach Tara Connolly and Kristen Wright. Tara is the one of the coaches and recruiting coordinators for RPI Hockey. And she's really going to break down kind of some of this angle stuff on the shooting side. And we're really excited to have her. And we're going to post pretty soon. We got a couple pretty awesome ones coming up after that. But for right now, you can follow us on Facebook Live would be the easiest. And then for some of you that are on Zoom. So thanks a lot, and stay safe, stay healthy, and we wish you the best.